Private equity investors are siphoning millions of dollars away from community hospitals.
Private equity firm KKR is getting big on getting healthy. The company announced on Monday that it will acquire WebMD Health.
Walgreens is being bought by a private equity firm in a multi-billion-dollar deal.
You ever walk into a place that feels local, but something is off? It's the same building, the same name, same menu, but the vibe is kind of gone. The staff doesn't know your name. The service kind of feels robotic. And suddenly you're paying $18 for a sandwich and a side eye. That's not just inflation, that's infiltration. Because right now, in cities, suburbs, and small towns all across the country, something's happened behind the counter. Private equity firms, the same financial titans that once bought airlines, hospitals, and casinos, are now buying the coffee shop on your corner, the vet who treated your childhood dog, and yes, even your kid's preschool. They're taking over your neighborhood, and they're doing it quietly, with receipts, not bulldozers. This isn't a conspiracy, this is capitalism. And today, we're breaking it all down. What private equity really is, how it's weaponizing debt to buy the places you trust, and why the most local-looking businesses might be owned by billion-dollar funds you never heard of. Let's jump into it. Let's strip the jargon. Private equity is just a fancy way of saying we buy businesses and squeeze them until they are profitable for us, not for you. Here's the real trick. They almost never use their own money. They use yours. It's called a leveraged buyout, or LBO for short. They take out a massive loan to buy a business and then make that business responsible for repaying the loan. Yeah, you heard that right. They saddle the business with the debt used to acquire it. That's like taking out a mortgage on someone else's house, but making them pay it off. It's not just financial engineering, it's financial jujitsu and using your opponent's weight against them. And the goal is to cut costs, slash jobs, and boost short-term profits, then sell the company or take it public for a massive payday. They call it value creation. But let's be honest, what they're really doing is value extraction from employees, from customers, and from communities. Before I continue, I want to be really honest with you real quick. I work in finance right here in New York. I do valuation work for private equity firms, big banks, and high net worth individuals. These are the same firms we're talking about in this video. And when I started, it was like a dream. I was flying all over the country, walking through these manufacturing plants, some vet clinics, and some small-time hospitals, even a lot of these distribution businesses, helping my clients figure out what they were worth and if they could be bought, flipped, or scaled. I was in the deal room. I was looking at the strategy, the spreadsheets, and the exit plans. And for a while, it felt like I was helping create opportunity, but I didn't realize that I was part of the problem. I've seen firsthand how these deals go down. Yes, sometimes they really do try to improve operations. Yes, they streamline processes, bring in systems, and they do fix inefficiencies. But it almost always comes at a cost. A cost most of the public doesn't see until it's too late, which are like the jobs lost, the services reduced, or the communities reshaped in the name of ROI. And I'm not here to pretend that I'm above it. I still work with some of these firms. But I'll tell you this, doing the research for this video, it forced me to do some soul searching. Because once you realize how deep the rabbit hole goes, you can't unsee it. And you start asking harder questions. So I hope you stick with me, because this isn't about hating capitalism. It's about understanding how power moves and how it moves through your neighborhood. All right, now that I laid that all on the table, let's talk about how this takeover actually happens. Private equity doesn't knock. It doesn't introduce itself. It slides in through the back door with contracts, consultants, and capital. First step is identify a fragmented industry. Something boring, something local, something where owners are aging out, like plumbing services, daycare centers, vet clinics, or funeral homes. And then you buy in bulk. They scoop up dozens of small independent businesses and then roll them into a single portfolio and centralize operations to cut the costs. They call this scaling. But to you, it probably feels like shorter appointments, higher prices, and employees who turn over faster than your streaming subscriptions. And step 3 is that they monetize everything. Every phone call, every transaction, every square foot. That 24-hour urgent care that used to treat you and bill you later, now is cash up front, surprise fees, and a customer service number that leads to nowhere. Because now it's part of a PE-backed healthcare chain that reports to investors, not patients. Let's talk about a business you probably heard of, Walgreens. In 2024, the pharmacy giant made headlines by announcing a restructuring partnership with KKR, which is one of the biggest private equity firms in the world. That's not a merger. That's not a buyout. That was a lifeline with strings. KKR is bringing cash, yes, but they also bring in the playbook. And that playbook includes selling off valuable real estate, laying off corporate staff, automating front-end operations, and streamlining healthcare offerings, which is usually code for cutting corners. What was once a pharmacy chain could soon operate like a retail optimization experiment, built not for community health, but for shareholder returns. Walgreens is a household name, and now is a test case. If a company that size can fall under the influence of PE, what chance does your local dentist's office stand? This isn't happening just in one sector, it's happening everywhere. Take healthcare. Private equity owns an estimated 25% of US hospitals and a growing chunk of mental health clinics, dermatology practices, and even OBGYN networks. It's why medical billing is so chaotic and why you're more likely to get hit with a $1,400 facility fee for walking into a clinic. Next, they have veterinary clinics. Firms like Mars or JAB Holdings, yeah, the same people who own chocolate brands and coffee companies, now dominate US pet care. They don't know your dog, they know your margins. Next, we got dental chains like Smile Direct Club, Aspen Dental, and dozens of regional names are now controlled by private equity. Same offices, but suddenly you're being upsold on cosmetic procedures and subscription plans. Next, we got restaurants. That artisanal sandwich spot could be part of a roll-up that includes dozens of brands under one financial umbrella. Childcare and education. Yeah, preschools, charter schools, even tutoring centers. Many are now owned by firms that have never stepped into a classroom. And it's all justified under one idea: efficiency. But whose efficiency are we talking about here? Let's talk the bottom line. Here's what happens when private equity takes over. You pay more through rising prices, surprise fees, and aggressive billing, but you get less. You get fewer services, less qualified staff, and longer wait times. And your money leaves your neighborhood, redirected to executive bonuses and institutional investors. That's not capitalism at its best. That's extraction disguised as optimization. And if you ever wonder why everything feels more expensive and less personal, this is one of the biggest reasons why. So how do they fool you? The trick? They don't rebrand. They buy the business, but they keep the name. They keep the same wallpaper, the same logo, sometimes even the same manager for a few months. Because if it looks local, you'll keep showing up. You'll support it, thinking you're helping your community. But in reality, you're not buying from a neighbor. You're bankrolling a private equity firm in Midtown Manhattan with zero connection to your town, your family, or your future. And here's what most people don't realize. If the business fails, PE still wins. They already extracted management fees, consultant fees, dividend recap buyouts, which are often paid using more debt, and sometimes the real estate value underneath the store. So when that business shutters, the firm just moves on. You're left with another empty storefront, and they are off buying the next one. So how do you spot the takeover? Here are some few red flags you can look out for. Prices rise. Not quick, but steadily. The services get packaged or subscription-based. Your billing becomes aggressive, or they outsource it. Your local staff leave, or they complain about the changes. You start seeing more franchises, but fewer independents. And the vibe just feels hollow. If something feels off, it probably is. So let's be honest. You can't stop private equity with a comment section, but you can protect yourself and your community. You can support real local businesses. Yes, they might charge a few bucks more, but the money stays in the zip code. You can also ask some questions: ownership, business model, staff treatment. If you care where your food comes from, you should care where your dollars are going to. I want you to also push for transparency, especially in healthcare, childcare, and education, where private equity is quietly changing the rules of care. Don't confuse polished with personal. Just because it looks Instagram worthy doesn't mean it's community run. The illusion is strong, but the stakes are stronger. Private equity isn't evil by default. Some firms do good work. Some improve operations. Some save businesses that were already sinking. But when the entire point is to extract as much profit as possible, as fast as possible, with zero regard to culture, community, or people, that's not investment, that's exploitation. This is about more than money. It's about who gets to shape the places we live, who owns our experiences, and what happens when neighborhoods become portfolios. So next time something feels off about your favorite spot, I want you to look closer. Because if the food's the same, but the soul is missing, it probably just got bought out. If this video made you look at your neighborhood differently, I want you to drop a comment. Tell me what PE has taken over near you. Has it been a pharmacy, a restaurant, or a daycare? Let's track it. Let's talk about it. And if you want more deep dives like this into how the economy is quietly reshaping your everyday life, hit the subscribe button. We're pulling back the curtains on the financial systems, the business models, and psychological tricks built into modern spending. Because financial freedom doesn't just mean making more. It means seeing clearly. So stay curious, stay sharp, and always ask, who owns this? Till next time, peace.